Welcome. This is a shamanic approach. I am shamanic practitioner and mentor Angela Faith, here to share with you a shamanic approach to modern living. It is never my intention to tell you what to think, feel, or believe, but it is my mission to inspire you to create wholeness, wellness, and harmony through shamanic principles and practices. I invite you now to go to my website at angelafaith.love. You can schedule a complimentary clarity call there if you have any questions or desires to discuss anything you hear further. And remember, you are safe, you are supported, and you are so loved. Let's dive right in. Hello and welcome back to A Shamanic Approach. I am Angela Faith, shamanic practitioner and mentor. And with me today is my dear friend Sandra in Canada. In Canada, yes. And Sandra, I am going to let you introduce yourself and just tell us about yourself and where in Canada you are, because it's slipped my mind.
Thank you, Angela. It is delightful to be here with you. Yes, I am in Canada. I live on Vancouver Island, which is in British Columbia, Canada, on the West Coast. And I am such a lover of natural spaces, being outdoors, the mountains and the oceans, and all of that are such a big part. So where I live is very instrumental to who I am. I'm someone who's evolving all the time, as I know many of us are. I've been through lots of different challenges and journeys along the way, but in the past 4 to 5 years, I have really been focused on what I sort of refer to as reinventing myself. A lot of it has concerned around my health journey, and I like discovering new things and just being curious and having a really interesting experience here in this timeline.
Beautiful. Yes. And we are always expanding. And just to lay a little bit of a foundation, how Sandra and I know each other is we met, I believe, in a workshop together with a mutual friend. And just from her introduction, you know that we have a lot in common. We discovered we have a lot in common. And she has just finished up my program, A Shamanic Approach to Modern Living or Abundant Living. I'm going back and forth with the name there, and discovered that many of the things that are shamanic principles and practices, she was naturally doing. And so we just decided to collaborate on a topic today and likely future topics. Mm-hmm. And what we are going to discuss today is a shamanic approach to seasonal sadness. And this topic came to me in a journaling. It's journaling and meditation and movement as part of my morning ritual. And in that practice, I get insight. And seasonal sadness is what came up, and I felt, again, it was timely and something that I wanted to talk about. A shamanic approach to this topic. So we're going to discuss it on different levels and different angles and perspectives. And I trust that you will walk away with something that maybe you hadn't considered in the beginning. Sandra, I would like to ask you, have you experienced, we talked a little bit before, have you experienced depression, what you would identify as depression?
I don't feel that I have experienced depression, but I do have times when I recognize that there is something that I would be encouraged to do to get me into a different state of mind.
Yeah, different mindset. Yes. So I am familiar with depression, and part of my life I would spend time unable to get out of bed, and I would have seasonal sadness. And as we've talked about, the world of psychiatry has given it a cute acronym, SAD, seasonal affective disorder, I believe. And they've put it in a cute little box and put a lovely bow on it and tied it real pretty. And they hand it out often. If you're not happy and it's a winter, oh, you must have SAD. And what I understand is that we're not designed to be happy all the time. That's one thing to consider, whether it's winter, spring, summer, or fall. And I used to identify with winter depression, or seasonal
Mm.
depression is what it was called in my day before it was given the acronym SAD. And I know, as a shamanic practitioner and approaching this from a shamanic approach, I understand that all illness, mental, physical, and emotional, has a root cause, a spiritual cause, or a spiritual malady, if you will. So, seasonal depression, from a shamanic approach, I understand now, is simply not leaning into
Mm-hmm.
change, resisting change, and also the idea of needing to perform the same 365 days a year.
Oh, that's so
Do you
valid.
agree?
Yeah,
Yeah.
totally.
Like our culture, you're not allowed to slow down. You must work
Mm-hmm.
8 hours a day, 5 days a week. You get 2 weeks off, and that's in the summer.
Mm-hmm.
And then you get some time off for the holidays if you're lucky. If
Mm-hmm.
you're lucky. And so maybe it's the resistance to slowing down, which is our natural way of being,
Yeah.
that is happening, not, oh, it's winter.
I don't think that we're supposed to be in that go, go, go steady pace all the
Mhm.
time. And like you said, that's sort of how society has us sort of going along on that way. But when you think of it more in nature doesn't do that. Nature is cyclical. Nature
Yes.
has the different times for different things, the seasons, and we are, it's all interconnected. We are nature. We are all part of, so shouldn't we be cyclical as well?
Yes, when we are cyclical, but we are performing and living in a way that's not cyclical. So
Yep.
it's creating that
Yep.
resistance within,
Mm-hmm.
but we blame it on outside circumstances or the season, which is
Mm-hmm.
so natural and it's so necessary. And in learning in the shamanic teachings and teaching about the sacred circle, also known as the medicine wheel, and understanding the directions and how everything is cyclical and not linear, which again, we are I
Mm-hmm.
use the words conditioned and culture a lot. But that's just what it is. I don't know what other words to use. We're conditioned to think in linear
Mm-hmm.
ways, and instead of leaning into and trusting that it's necessary. I also find that watching nature shows and understanding what is happening in the winter. Like, I used to look at the trees when I didn't have that awareness and think, oh, everything looks dead. That's what I would say. And now I see sculptures, and they're they're not prettier or uglier, they're different than they are in the spring,
And
right?
also, there's another way of looking at that is when the leaves fall, it's providing nourishment
Mhm.
to the soil and the earth and
Yep.
protection for
Yes.
the creatures and
Yep.
stuff. And so, I've been seeing posts encouraging people not to be so quick to go and rake up all those leaves,
Mhm.
and that it's it's this cycle, the cyclical things that's supposed to happen, and there's balance, and we don't need to clean it up.
Yes.
It's happening, and it's to be enjoyed. And I mean, if you just think of the, like, right now where I am, the trees are so beautifully colored with their, as they're changing. And I
Yeah.
know, we're both like, we absolutely have these wonderful relationships with trees, and so
Yes.
I know you have that as well. And so it's just, that's, it's a different perspective, right? Is because you can think of it as, oh well, the tree, the leaves are falling and dying, and or that, or they're just growing through what they're supposed to be doing.
Yes. They're not resisting. They're not
Mm-hmm.
resisting it at all. And yeah, it is a beautiful cycle. We have mature trees in our yard and we live in a
Mm-hmm.
subdivision. We have the original house. And so the other houses around us don't have a lot of trees. And yes, my neighbors on both sides of me yesterday were out with their riding mowers cleaning up their lawns
Mm-hmm.
because I am leaving the leaves down for my bird friends and all of the insects and the things
Mm-hmm.
that are happening under there. But learning about, because we think we know but we don't know what we've been taught in school is not what we need to know. I believe we go to school and get stupid in a lot of ways. We get ignorant to our own innate awareness, and learning what's happening in the wintertime and seeing that things, even if they look dead, there is life in death. And if you look at everything cyclical, it's not an ending to the summer, it's the continuation of the cycle. And
Mm-hmm.
it's all, as you said, it's necessary. It's so, I love watching nature shows. I watched one yesterday on woodpeckers,
Mm.
and it and it talked about like when a tree dies, how all of the life that happens within that dead, like it's not dead, it becomes new
Mm-hmm.
life.
Mm-hmm.
So I want to talk a little bit too about one of the principles of shamanism is that our thoughts and our words become things. So it's real important. I want to stress to people to understand one of the things I address when someone comes to me and says, I have XYZ, I have seasonal depression, I have
Mm-hmm.
Lyme's disease, I have cancer, I have anything. The first thing I say is stop saying that. It's not gaslighting yourself, it's not being in denial.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
But it's really important because see, I work on a energetic and the ethereal body, and I know that if I create a home for anything, I'm inviting it to stay. I'm creating an environment for it to live. If I want to
Yeah.
heal from anything, I need to create an environment for wellness to occur. So I'm what I'm getting at here is being mindful not to say I have seasonal depression.
Another one that I was taught along that exact same is don't call it my pain,
Exactly.
my headache.
Hmm.
It's again, it's like it's that it's owning it,
Yeah.
and it's that's keeping it. And those words are super important.
So, what would we say instead? I'm recovering from a headache instead of
Um,
I have a headache,
yep,
right?
yep,
I've been diagnosed with, I'm
yep,
recovering from, rather than I have.
yep.
Yeah.
And I catch myself with that because I have um, changed the way that I write and I speak after learning that. And that was several years ago. And, I would like, I don't say my arthritis.
Mhm.
I just say arthritis
Yes.
or, and all of that. And it does change the energy. We don't
Mhm.
have these things. We may be experiencing them.
Yes,
Uh,
yes. It's
mhm.
not who you are. These bodies
Yes.
are temporary and they are subject to illness and pain and disease, and but we can support our wellness with our words and our thoughts.
And we are constantly growing, evolving, and renewing. Just because
Mhm.
we are
Yes.
experiencing some sort of, whether it be physical or emotional, at one point in our life,
Mhm.
what's going to give it some time. I'm certainly not experiencing the same things now that I was 5 years ago, 20 years. We change.
Right. Absolutely. The body, I'm living proof of that. The body
Yep.
can heal itself, regenerate itself. And I know you are too. If we create an environment, is it spontaneous healing? Not usually. It can happen, but that's
Mhm.
not typically the case. But it is creating that environment. And also, healing looks different. It doesn't mean that
Mhm.
if I can't walk, I can suddenly walk. It means that I'm leaning into and recognizing that I'm not bound in this physical form. And that is a wonderful segue into the, again, talking about seasonal, bringing it back to
Mhm.
seasonal sadness. As a practicing shaman, I also see that as a symptom of an unawareness of one's interconnectedness.
Mhm.
And it's a symptom of that. If I'm clinging on to summer
Mhm.
or the events of summer, and my joy, my happiness depends on these outside circumstances, then I am not feeling an interconnectedness to all that is and my part in it, how I am, as you said, I too am cyclical. Again,
Mhm.
when you watch a nature show and you see how everything depends on everything else,
Yeah.
we are also part of that ecosystem, that collective.
Mhm.
But in a society that is, again, psychology and psychiatry, we were taught about the ego identity as a separate thing. So we are all feeling separate instead of interconnected. And so when the winter comes, what I see it as is people are suddenly at a season or a place to slow down and sit still. But many people I see can't do that. They're so busy and so loud and so feeling disconnected, not feeling that interconnected, that sitting still or being quiet is uncomfortable. And then that can create all these feelings, but we blame, then it's blamed on the season.
And also being spoon fed the roadmap that we're supposed to be, that we're allowed to be, that we're all going to be sad because it's winter. And
Yes.
well, of course, and there's something wrong with you, and so we need to fix you.
Yeah.
And there, I mentioned before that even like over the course of years, I can remember just casual conversations with groups of people where people just throwing it out there. Oh, I have this, or I have,
Mhm.
just as a, because well it fits,
Yeah.
everyone has it. And I think we should question that.
Yes, I agree. I think that it's sad. It's unfortunate that if someone is sad or unhappy, they're told something's wrong.
Yes.
Yes, and that is, to me, that's growing pains. I know there must be destruction before there is creation. I've survived a dark night of the soul, as I know you have, where literally everything fell away, but I understand now it had to happen.
Mm-hmm.
I had to go through that. But yes, as we live in a society, it's a gazillion dollar industry selling us happiness. Yeah, telling us that if we're sad, something is wrong. I want to, I'm going to refer to a document that I obtained through the University of Metaphysics. I'm sorry, the International Metaphysical Ministry, which is also associated with the University of Metaphysics. And this is by Dr. Paul Leon Masters, who is in spirit now, but he's the founder of the International Metaphysical Ministries. And he talks about today's clinical psychology and psychiatry in contrast with an enlightened society. An enlightened society, as I was just talking about that interconnectedness, I want you to think of that as what is an enlightened society? It's not just people that carry crystals and read cards. I know that's real popular, but I want you to consider enlightened are people that have that expanded awareness and understanding that as it currently stands, the world standard for mental health is collective neurosis. The occupation of the clinical psychologist and psychiatrist is to adjust the mind to be functional in a dysfunctional society. In other words, what is called mental health is the ability to function within that which is collectively dysfunctional. So it can be challenging to, let me be careful with my words here. Often, the only solution offered to someone who is experiencing sadness during any season is, I hear it all the time, go get help.
Mm-hmm.
And it's no secret that when you go get help, you're often prescribed something. And here in this teaching, he's talking about when we go get help, basically, we're being told you're not functioning in the dysfunctional way you need to function. And anything other than that is considered wrong, right? And that can
Yeah.
be depressing.
Yeah.
Yeah.
That's why conversations like we're having right now are so important, because I think that it's very easy for people to get caught up in the notion that there aren't other options, that
Mhm.
like you say, when there's, if you're, that there's something wrong and it needs to be fixed, and in the standard going to that fix is to put something, perhaps of a chemical compound of a pharmaceutical nature,
Mhm.
to numb or mute
Yeah.
whatever you're experiencing and feeling.
Yeah.
And while there certainly it may be place for that in some circumstances, what if people were aware that there were other things that maybe they could try, or
Yes.
other approaches that they might change their thinking and perspective? Would
Yeah.
it be worth it to see an approach? And that's those sort of things aren't necessarily promoted as
Right.
much.
And it's getting more so, I believe. I know that I'm working with more and more clinicians, and it excites me so much, psychiatrists and psychologists that are curious about what I teach and what I practice, not just what I teach, but what I practice myself. I consider myself a recovering from a hopeless state of mental and physical and spiritual well-being. So let's talk about that. Some different approaches. I think we've
Mm-hmm.
covered well condition, the condition, and how it is. It's got a blanket now, a term. If you're sad at any point in the winter, we'll call it this.
Mm-hmm.
And I get it. I get it that it's cold and it's dark more. I get all of that. But what if you leaned into it with curiosity? What if you, I know we've talked about this, you've inspired me to walk in the mornings,
Mm-hmm.
and I don't like being cold. And that's what I say now. I don't like being cold, but I don't say I hate winter. I
Mm-hmm.
don't like being cold. So, you know what I do? I dress warm.
Mm-hmm.
What if, but see, I know too, and this is just kind of being observant, that is all this is. We live in a culture, especially as women, where we are so conditioned to worry about what we look like
Mm-hmm.
that we don't want to cover it up with coats and layers of clothes.
Don't want to mess our hair.
Right. Don't put a hat on. Just got my hair did. Don't put a hat on that. I know one of my daughters, I'm cold. Well, honey, where's your coat? Like
Mm-hmm.
she
Mm-hmm.
doesn't wear a coat. And so I've learned that I don't like being cold. So, and I'm not worried at this point in my life. And I just put on layers. But when I go out all bundled up and warm, it's so fascinating.
Yep.
It's beautiful. The sky, the sounds, the smells. It's different. Yes, it's different than summer, but it's not bad if
Yep.
I lean into it with more curiosity. I know too, though, that see, I do have a meditation practice,
Mm-hmm.
and I want to say I do want to jump back for a moment. I do want to say this about pharmaceuticals and such for sadness. I'm not saying that they are bad, good. I'm indifferent to that. What I will say that is if you are in a place where that's what you need right now,
Mm-hmm.
if you start implementing these, not these, but certain practices while you're on the medication, you may find that you don't, at some point, you don't need the medication. Because I understand that sometimes maybe the medication can help you get to that place where you can start implementing some get out of bed and function. But then when you're functioning, don't go right back to doing what you were doing. Start making some changes, and then you may find yourself free from the medication,
Mm-hmm.
because the medication for long-term use, it just doesn't have good outcomes for long-term use that I've ever had anyone report or in my own experience. So so what do you think about that, leaning into winter with curiosity?
Oh yeah, I mean, I think that with all of the seasons,
Mhm, yeah.
to be have that curiosity, have that fascination,
Mhm.
and to be ready for it. I
Yeah.
remember I've heard the phrase, there's no such thing as bad weather, just poor clothing choices.
Right.
And we have to be layered up. And when you do that, when you take it, then you can really experience it. And just to it's like you're saying with your walks there in the cool crisp morning, it's quieter, it's different. There's an appreciation that you can have for
Yeah.
that.
It's invigorating.
Mm-hmm.
And I and this is me.
Mhm.
I feel like on my walk, it's part of my meditation. I meditate and then go for the walk. So I'm still in that state.
Mhm.
I truly feel at times that I am walking in the footsteps of indigenous ancestors. I imagine because our not so long ago, our ancestors had to get out in the cold just to go take their first pee.
Mhm.
And here I am whining because, oh, I'm cold.
Mhm.
I lean into it with gratitude also. Gratitude that I have layers, gratitude that I can get warm. I have blankets, I have, heat. I don't have to cut my wood, build a fire, and work so hard for it. I imagine how my grandmothers were taking the same steps to gather,
Mhm.
medicine or plants, and just so my mind goes, instead of that, again, resistance. We live in a culture and society that tells us and our children we should be happy and comfortable all the time. We are an entitled species,
Mhm.
and it doesn't fit. It makes us depressed. It's not a natural state. So that depression is an awareness of that. I want to say too, though, that I recognize that being forced to sit still when the days are shorter and being indoors, that's when a lot of unresolved grief,
Mhm.
fear, all of that stuff can come up. And I assure you that resisting, running from, numbing out, if you make the decision to lean into it, you will be supported by cooperative components. It's that
Mhm.
planting a seed. But if I resist, then it creates that inner struggle, that disconnect, that
Mhm.
distrust. And then, yeah, I'm looking to the weather and to the circumstances. If I get snowed in, oh no, I must go somewhere. I get it. I used to chomp at the bit
Mhm.
if I couldn't leave the house, could not sit still, especially on the weekends. So it is a practice, but
Mhm.
it does get better. I did make a few notes, some things that I do in the winter to lean into the season, the changing season, read more. That's almost, if not for everyone, I know it's not for
Mhm.
everyone, but for some, that's become a long lost art, right? Just picking up a book and snuggling in. I witness with many people I work with, Sandra, that their self worth is tied into their productivity, and so to sit down and just read, they feel like is a waste of time. Like that's where
Mhm.
we've gotten so fast and so busy that many feel that or reading has become memes and scrolling, right? Instead of just sitting down with a book that makes you feel good or exercises your imagination. Oh,
Yeah,
yeah.
it's so rich and it's so different. I think that we've become really dependent on the instant gratification from scrolling and seeing things. You mentioned things like memes, and to always be entertained by something. Whereas doing reading allows you to engage your mind and your brain in just a little different way. Another thing that popped up that has been gaining popularity over the past few years and kind of in a winter vibe is people knitting and crocheting,
Yes, I weave now on
right?
a loom.
And
Yes.
so that's another way
Hmm.
to slow down.
Yeah.
um I was just thinking as well that as you if you really appreciate and have awareness for the different seasons and what's happening, that also can be really beautifully translated into the foods that we're eating and preparing. Like
Yes.
when it's in the middle of cold winter, you're not necessarily having that cold spinach and strawberry salad.
Mhm.
It's, we want those different things. So there's so much
Yeah.
that is available to lean into, that is
Yes.
the good, the wonderful nuggets of every season, but in particular winter, if we choose to, again, with that curiosity, be looking for what can we embrace instead
Mhm.
of wishing that it was, still something different. And if
Yes.
we understand that it's guess what? Summer's going to come back again.
Yeah,
It's like
and it's a
always.
beautiful part. That's what
Mm,
I find when I start seeing, and that's one of the other things. And yes,
mm,
learn a new hobby, or take time to draw, write, crochet, knit, loom, learn something new. Um, Start that book, or again, giving yourself permission to do something like that. But I find we are in a culture that wants to go and not slow down, and it's
mhm,
unnatural. Rest more. And I wrote on the side here in big letters, give yourself permission to read more, rest more, because I find people, well, I don't have time. Yes, you do.
mhm.
Here's something that I wrote. Don't prioritize your schedule. Schedule your priorities.
Oh, yeah.
Stephen Covey, I think, is who said that. I wrote that in my journaling. Don't
Mm,
prioritize your schedule. Schedule your priorities.
mhm,
And so to me, my reading, my I have a time, it's scheduled in my day, that
mhm.
that is when I journal, that's when I meditate, that's when I move. It's not if have time to. And I tell people I do those practices like my life depends on it.
It really changes it
Mhm.
because I, again, previously, that sure was not, I didn't make those things a priority.
Yeah.
I never, and so, and they never made it to the top of the list.
Mhm.
Things like the doing all the self-care things,
Yeah.
and it just, I didn't prioritize them, and
Mhm.
the, I didn't put the value, and now they are at everything else shuffles in and fits in, and
Yes.
that's how I'm able to have the version of wellness that I'm enjoying, because I make those things a priority, and
Yes.
it changes everything.
Everything. It
Mhm.
changes everything. So dress warm. That's another thing I have here. Research what is occurring in nature. We've talked about that. Create or learn something. Practicing maintaining your energetic hygiene, becoming aware. That could be something that you study if it's new to you,
Mhm.
about your energetic body, and that you aren't just a lump of mass that is being tossed around in this fast, loud environment. It may feel that way. And if you believe that, then that is so. But if you can just muster up a little bit of the mustard seed, and that's what
Mhm.
we're uh, wanting to do here, is plant that seed, something
Yeah.
to consider. What if you even started practicing these things and slowing down? Because that's another thing. In my world, I understand that working with the medicine wheel, we can be in the winter in certain parts of our life. So what is called seasonal depression, I could say, well, I could be in the winter, even in the middle of summer. I could be
Mhm.
in this the winter season of a relationship. It could be dying, and I could be depressed, but we don't call that seasonal depression. So it's just, it's a funny concept to me to place the blame of being sad, and that again, resistance and feeling of it not being connected. Some other ways to support yourself during the winter: going outside even when it's cold, just for a moment, and placing your hands on a tree or on the ground. That's something else I notice in my neighborhood. I live in the old farmhouse, so I don't have an attached garage.
Mhm.
But every one of the new houses has an attached garage. And actually, all seasons I notice, and again, this is just an observation, but I notice all the cars pulling out and then coming home and pulling in.
Mhm.
No one walks outside.
And they're quite likely going to a parkade, perhaps with their
Exactly.
workplace, up in an elevator
Yep.
into the office.
For
Yep.
8 to 10 hours, and then
Yep.
getting back in their car. But then they're sad. Well, yes, you're depressed because you aren't connected to the earth. Your
Mhm.
innate navigational system is defunct. It's atrophied. You aren't being guided. It's just so profound. And from a shamanic perspective, it seems so simple, but it's really
Mhm.
not in today's world, because I also am aware that it's scary to do something out of the box, or to not trust what everyone else seems to be doing, right? One of the things, too, I want to discuss, I teach about the daydreams and the sacred dream. And one of the daydreams is the daydream of permanence. Again, talking about that resistance to change. We are taught in school that you do this and you do that and you'll be successful and you'll get the house and the wife and the car or the husband or the partner, and you'll have all, the kids and the dog if that's what you want, and you'll be happy. And I worked in the legal field for 25 years, and I saw a lot of people that had made partner, or and even myself, I thought, oh, I'm successful, why aren't I happy? I have the things, why aren't I happy? And we get attached to circumstances or dreams, even, or ideas. Even if they don't make us happy, they make us feel safe. And we feel like if it's bad, at least I know what to expect. And we get attached to things. And the one thing that is always changing is everything. One of the beautiful things I've noticed on my walk is it's the same sky, because I walk the same walk, the same sky, but it is never the same. This is the same with my face every time I look in the mirror. It's the same with every day. It's another day. It's another Thursday, but it's never the same Thursday.
Yeah.
So leaning into and recognizing that things are always changing, and stop holding on to that dream, that daydream of keeping things the same. It shifts the life experience. It reduces suffering, quite honestly, because I do understand that everything has a cycle, a winter cycle, a cycle of change and transition. So yeah, transforming that daydream of permanence and leaning into the changes with curiosity. I like that. All right. Anything else that you want to add?
Well, I think that there are some things that are really small that we can do to help bring us and lift us up during the darker months.
Yes,
and
let's talk
and
about
so
that.
like like even light and color. Like, I am notorious for wearing black, but I put on a bright purple sweater, and because it actually it makes me feel uplifted, and it also for others as well. So even the smallest things as color and the use of
Yes.
light. Often the traditions in the winter in the Scandinavian countries, for instance, they do a lot of celebrations with candles and with light to bring that sparkle and that light
Yeah.
into the darker months. Another thing that can be really, really uplifting. I'm someone who studies and works and educates a lot with aromatherapy and essential oils, and our
Yes.
sense of smell can works immediately in with our brain, and helps us to create a different outlook on things. So if you're someone that is feeling a little bit low and you do have access to some essential oils, I would like to suggest that any of the citrus oils, so
Yeah.
a lemon, a orange, a bergamot, clementine, any of the citruses are known just across the board to be uplifting to our mood and emotions.
Yes.
So subtle things like that, having a bowl of oranges around, having the fresh fruit,
Yes.
bringing things in that are seasonal and that nourish all of our senses. Music is another one. You know,
Yes.
it's just like there are ways of being where we can definitely tune in and go within and get stuff through meditation and our own thoughts. But sometimes for some of us, that's not always the best place to be, especially
Right.
if we're rattling around
Yeah.
with that sort of monkey brain syndrome. So
Yes.
if you want to change the way of being, change your state. And that is so easily to do with aromatherapy, with
Yes.
music, with movement. One of the things that I was looking into is that people that when they are experiencing seasonal sadness in the winter, it is been found that often it is a lowering of serotonin
Yes.
in our bodies, and that's just and so that is something that some may suggest, well, you need to take a chemical to rebalance that. But did
Mhm.
you also know that there's things that physical exercise raises our serotonin levels in our body naturally? Vitamin D, exposing to natural light. I'm sure people have perhaps heard of the light boxes and the light therapy. You can
Mhm.
do that. You can do these things that are ways to bless and support and nourish yourself
Yes.
with what you're putting in. It makes a difference. So I would encourage people to lean into with a curiosity to some of the things as what can I do as an individual to
Mhm.
make some slight changes in that? And you just may find that you're feeling really supported
Yeah.
after adding some of those things into your routine.
Yes, yes,
Yeah.
simple
Yes.
things. Absolutely. I love that. I love that. And it is changing, just changing that frequency, shifting that mindset a little bit. You're creating the environment for something else to occur just by making a small shift.
And we always have
Mhm.
choice. We can be
Yes, we
feeling a
do.
certain way, and we can choose
Mhm.
to want to make a change. We can choose again over and over and over
Yep.
again.
Yes.
And just to come back to, if you are experiencing sadness or loneliness or feeling like that, first of all, you're not alone.
No.
You're always supported, and that you don't have to stay in that state. And we have so much that we can do to support, nurture, and love ourselves,
Mhm.
to know that it is important, and you're not broken. You're
No.
not supposed to be happy all the time, like Angela was saying.
Yeah.
We are having this experience, and as we navigate through it, we always have the power of to make a choice, to reach for something a little different. And the shamanic practices and teachings, like you had mentioned, I just went through that 12-week program with you. So much of what we learn through that is the appreciation for the world around us.
Mhm.
And all of that really, for me personally, that just reinforces that there's so much to love about winter, about spring, about all of it, and that we play a part with those seasons. We're supposed to be changing and moving along with the seasons. I just think it's just such a good fit for wanting to lean
Yeah.
into this topic.
They are our teachers. They are
Yeah.
teaching us so much, so much. And that is one of the other things I had written down here too, is to shift that mindset as well, is seeing the beauty everywhere. Begin to look for it intentionally. We can get caught up in seeing what we don't like easily and complaining, and that can become a natural environment. It can become a habit. It can become an addiction. But starting to just look for the beauty. And for me, it's the sky. Well, it's everything, quite honestly. I have been practicing it for a while, that now I see the beauty in the simplest things, but
Yeah.
see what has happened. Because in the shamanic approach, that is recognizing that interconnectedness. When I start seeing it all around me, I start seeing it in myself too. I
Yes.
am a part of all of this. And if I hate winter, I likely hate a part of myself. And I do teach that when I criticize myself or anything, I am criticizing all of creation.
Mhm.
And again, watching a KET, I don't know if you wouldn't have that where you are.
No, but we
I'm
have
in Lowell.
similar public. Yeah, we have
Yes, public,
public
but they
television.
have nature shows that just, I
Yeah.
mean, my mind is always so, I'm like a child when I watch them. I'm
Hmm.
just so, like, it's like magic to me. It truly is. And when they say on there, like, the scientists know that we'll use the woodpecker, they know it does this, but they don't know why. Like
Yeah.
we aren't capable of comprehending how all of this magic works. So to resist any of it is really a disservice to
Mm-hmm.
the individual and also to the collective. And I would like to speak on what you had just said too, making that decision, just making the decision. I promise you that there are cooperative components that conspire to support you. We often don't create change in our lives because we're afraid we won't be supported, or maybe we don't have all the answers. I don't know how it'll turn out. You don't have to have all the answers. And every day is a new beginning. It's a new day. It's a new day to make a new choice in anything, a small change each day or one a week, whatever is comfortable for you. Meditation alone isn't the answer. Movement alone isn't the answer. What you're putting in your body isn't the answer alone. What you're reading, what you're listening to. But just like driving a car, they are all related. And if you're just doing one, but you're not doing others, it's not going to support you. But practicing these small practices, methods, if you will, and bringing them together, you will find yourself moving in a direction that you want to go instead of maybe feeling like you're stuck in the mud or literally broken down.
Mm-hmm.
And as Sandra said, I promise you, you are not broken. Nothing is wrong, even if it feels like it. Fear is false evidence appearing real. Another great thing that I wrote down here to shift the daydream of permanence is what this is good for, that attachment to things staying the same. I think I've mentioned maybe volunteer one day a week. I do that and it's a highlight of my week. And it doesn't have to be like a whole big day commitment. There's Zoom opportunities now. There's lots of ways that we can, or even just, sending someone a card or doing a random act of kindness with nothing, looking for nothing in return. That expands the heart and that also lifts the spirit, that raises that vibration. Paying it forward. Again, just doing those random acts of kindness for either a stranger, and it's great to do it for someone that you're not going to expect something in return. So maybe someone that's not family, just something that is just because. I don't want to go too deep into this just because I feel like I'm winding down myself. The holidays can also be challenging and can contribute to some sadness during the season of winter because those big holidays with such big expectations placed on them are in the winter time. And I feel like this would be a topic for another episode. The family dynamics and the holidays and how to support yourself through that. But that can contribute to to grief coming into the winter months, coming into the holidays, if you're missing someone that has passed over, or getting with family, or maybe not having family to get with. I know one of my most miserable Christmases was when I was mad because it didn't look like Norman Rockwell told me it was supposed to.
Mm-hmm.
And when I let go of the ideas that I thought it was supposed to look like, and I get to create whatever I want on that day. That's me. I don't have, but circumstances are different, but allowing yourself to do things differently. And that's really what we're talking about, I think, with the seasonal depression, allowing yourself to do something different. Yeah. With all of that being said, if you are feeling like you are alone or that you are in a place that you cannot get out of, please reach out to someone. That's the first step, because I also do believe that sometimes we can meet people on our journey when we wave the white flag or find the courage to ask for help. I call them earth angels, those people that show up in the right time. But I also know that it does often take a surrender to saying, I don't know, I need help. but just be aware that there are different approaches and different help and modalities. And so trust yourself,
Mhm.
find something that feels right to you. And be mindful that, just like I said with driving, it's not just one thing. So that means that there probably won't just be one quick fix or one pill to fix it all. It can be a combination of components that conspire and that you can start implementing. So remember that you are safe, you are supported, you are so, so loved. And I love you. And thank you for listening and spending this time with us.